East Asia and the Pacific region is facing a great problem with child labor, and it will get worse if not addressed immediately by the government. My country, the Philippines, is in great trouble because of this. The Philippines is resided by over 96 million people, and this number is expected to swell to around 150 million in 2050. And immorality is still growing uncontrollably in this nation, and in fact, teenage pregnancy happens to be among the most seriously growing problem. And as a result of immorality and further early pregnancy, it is expected that more children will face challenges in life and probably fall into this one of the major crises in the Philippines, which is child labor. Well, child labor in its basic sense does not always connote negative elements with it, negative factors with it. Work in real sense helps children to learn new skills and develop a sense of responsibility later as adults. And the problem lies on the works that are beyond the capacity of a child or unacceptably immoral. The examples will be, you see these kids carrying these big logs down the hill, and then you also have prostitution and some sorts of other immoral works around. On the other side, the formal selling of goods, the parking in public utility vehicle parking areas, or working even as cashiers in grocery stores. These kinds of work, or where kids can learn to be more responsible and they can enjoy their job at the same time. Although here in the Philippines there is this child labor code, but because of poverty, many families, many parents, many kids do not have a choice. I would say that there are many kids who grew up being so dependent on their parents, but they grow miserable compared to the kids, these child laborers who were raised in a poor family. And most successful people have the background of working when they were just children, and I can't help but think of the wealthiest billionaires right now in the Philippines, namely Henry C. and Lucio Tan. And if I'm not mistaken, both of them were child laborers in the past. I'm always fascinated about how kids view God. So whenever I see street kids, I can't help but ask them about their perspective towards God. I remember when I was walking down the street of Cebu last year, I realized that this city is having among the most street kids in the country. And then one kid poked me and asked for money. And then when I gave him a 5 peso coin, I asked him, "Do you know Jesus?" And then he said right away, "Yes, he is God." And then after answering, he thanked me and left. Well, the Philippines is a Roman Catholic country, and it is expected that children know, they have a knowledge about Jesus. Sometime in their past, they have encountered the name Jesus, or in most families, kids are, they grew up knowing who Jesus is, and they know, they have ideas about where Jesus can be found, and most of them will say he's in the church, in the Roman Catholic Church. If they will be asked about their view of God, their answer will depend on the kind of life that they have, because these are their basis on how God is moving in their lives. The question of religion is there because in most areas also that I've been to, most street kids are Muslims. Some are Bajau. So their view of God is different. And a typical Filipino kid knows Jesus better than the Muslim kids. But Muslim kids know Jesus. Some of them know Jesus as, Isa in the book of Quran. So their views of God are very different. And it's very interesting to know from them, from these innocent minds that we can talk with, we can have conversation with. Us adults have our different understanding of life. But kids, on the other hand, they have very interesting perspectives or view of life. And I'm also thrilled to know their ideas, their understanding of life from one city to another. It varies from one kid to another because of the background that they have and the status that they have. I remember when Pope Francis visited the Philippines some months ago, one very important question from a child went viral in the social media. And her question was something like, why does God allow kids to suffer? It was a very moving question, and knowing or hearing that from a child questioning God's will in her life. At a very young age, many Filipino kids already know about real suffering, and many are victims of social injustice, as most children in this country are, malnourished, undernourished. They're not properly clothed and sheltered. Most of them, you will see a lot of kids sleeping down the street. Many of them do not eat 3 times a day. One study says that poor Filipino family with like 5 kids in it, they have a budget of around $1 or 50 pesos a day. How can you survive with that? Most of these kids, they're not in school when they should. The young Filipinos suffer mostly because of the problems in the family. I'm not generalizing, but most of them are poor because of the culture in the family. Culture is among the principal sources of sufferings. Some kids grow in rebellion. Some kids and youth are motivated to pursue a better life than what they currently have. If the Philippines has no immediate solution for poverty, which seems to be the problem over the decades, then it will be a matter of solving it with a presupposition that this is quite an inevitable crisis, and so an alternative solution should be brought about. How can we help the child laborers today? Well, the kids today will be, of course, adults in just a few years from now. So there should be an alternative action as soon as possible. Maybe having a mission for kids to have the right attitude when they are working. If we think we cannot do anything about child labor, at least to reduce it, reduce the rate of child labor. It's so hard because the root of this problem is poverty, and there's a lot of branches of poverty, and one of this is child labor. Facing that reality right now that we cannot do a lot of things to avoid child labor, well, at least we can help the kids to have the right attitude with their work ethics. Most importantly, apart from this, is to bring them out from immorality. Missionaries for the child laborers in the Philippines, which I'm trying to be one, we should teach in a way that will be understandable in the frame of mind of the kids. The moral values or the standards, these things that constitute one of the most important aspects of social knowledge for children in any society, not just in the Philippines, but in other countries as well. These standards are defined as conceptions of good, what is right, what is wrong, what is obligatory. And these understandings, these conceptions influence the choices that kids make. These understandings and conceptions influence the actions of kids. If you ask a child, is it good? Is it right? Is it good or is it right for a young person like you to work? What do you think will be the answer? The answer of a child will depend on the culture and the background of his or her family. If the child's mind was conditioned at home that he or she needs to work, then he or she will surely answer, yes, it is right to work. If his or her family needs money, then it will not be right to just leave it and be lazy. If this is the case, the missionary should check if the work of the child is decent and not in any way polluting his or her innocent mind. It is a good job then that this is the time that the help for building up a good attitude or biblical attitude comes in. And a miner who works hard should learn that there is someone who cares for him or her. And that should ultimately be God and His people, us missionaries. However, to teach this, it is very important that along the process, the child's voice should be heard as often as possible, and the missionary should understand the child's thinking. The role of the missionary here is not actually to keep them from working, but to be there with them, guiding them as they continue working and having the right and biblical attitude. The kids who work hard can have a distorted view of life and God. However, they can be redirected if someone will just appreciate them and let them feel that they are doing a good job. Finally, their life should ultimately be redirected to the ultimate encourager in their lives, Jesus. Menschville is currently having this advocacy to reach out the street kids in the Philippines and around the world. You can share your love for them, and together we can ignite the hope in their hearts in Jesus' name.